so good to be here with you. My name is Jana Amin, and I'm an 18-year-old Egyptian American activist for gender parity, youth inclusion, and changing the narrative around Muslim women. I'm super excited to be here with you all today at the African Teen Summit. This summit is especially special to my heart, I think, because I feel like African teens are often forgotten about, right? And many things targeting African teens and programs and initiatives that are meant to empower African teens don't actually come from the teens themselves. And so, myself as a proud North African, as a proud African, I'm excited to be with you here today and talk a little bit more about my work with girls' education and public speaking in particular, and share some tips and advice for how you all can become change makers in your own communities. So I moved from Egypt in 2013 following the Egyptian Revolution of 2011. And, at the age of 8, during the 2011 Arab Spring, I was sitting next to my grandmother, helping her knead and pound and work the dough for the skak, which was, a favorite Egyptian dessert of mine and of the Egyptian masses. And together we'd send and bake these skak to a lot of the protesters that we were watching on television. And, that was my first moment thinking that I had some sort of agency, that I had some sort of power, right? In some ways, we were both metaphorically and literally helping feed this revolution. And that had a profound impact on who I would become. Seeing so many empowered, impassioned, and driven women on television inspired me to become just like them. And that's when I moved to the US and found that so many people in my community had a lot of very interesting and misguided stereotypes around women from the Middle East, around women from Africa, and their empowerment. And so that's when, I began telling my own story, the stories of the Muslim women and Egyptian women and African women I knew, and their stories of resilience, right? And I think I would say that the best way to create change in your own communities is by telling those stories and sharing those stories, right? I think there's nothing like a story to really empower others. And so that's kind of my first piece of advice. But anyways, it was amidst the COVID-19 pandemic, though, that I came across this figure that really propelled me to take some action for girls' education in the region specifically. So the Malala Fund estimated that over 20 million girls would not be able to go back to school because of the COVID-19 pandemic and its economic consequences. As a young girl myself, who's been incredibly lucky and incredibly privileged to be able to go to school all her life, I know how important learning is to me. And to think that so many girls would never learn how to read, they would never learn how to write, and they would never be afforded access to an education was really, really, really disheartening. And so for my 17th birthday, which was in May of 2020, I organized #17for17, advocating for girls' education, which was a 6-hour virtual event that brought together 17 speakers from around the world to talk about girls' education and its challenges, but also how we can all help out amidst the COVID-19 pandemic. Among those 17 speakers were, young girls from around the world who themselves had been denied an education and then had gone on to become education activists. There were people like the CEO of the Malala Fund and the executive director of the UN's Girls' Education Initiative, right? So all these stakeholders in girls' education that suddenly were here in the same platform that I had organized. And I was here saying, okay, tell us, how can we help on girls' education? How can we raise awareness for girls' education? Because I think amidst the COVID-19 pandemic, a lot of issues of gender parity were kind of pushed away and hidden, when in reality, gender parity is very much the only way and path forward to prevent other pandemics like this from happening, to make our response to pandemics better, but also to fight climate change and to do so many other really crucial things. And so the 17 for 17 event was an absolute success. We reached 71,000 social media accounts, and we had over 17,000 live viewers. And so, it was a personal accomplishment of mine that I was able to take this issue and see, how can my own talents, how can my own expertise, how can my own organizing experience contribute to this issue and make it better? And so that's what I did. And so I'd really recommend that you all, as young, Africans, look at your communities, look at, the challenges that your communities, your families, your schools are facing, and see what can you do to help solve those issues. I think if each one of us spent some time reflecting on the challenges that we faced and the challenges that those we cared about faced, our world would be a much better place. And I think, I want to end this by talking about the imperative of girls' education, right? I think many people see girls' education as an issue that affects girls and only girls. But girls' education, like I mentioned earlier, is our primary way to fight climate change. It's also the best way to increase a lot of our economic GDP. And especially when it comes to the continent of Africa, girls' education has steadily been on the rise, but very slowly. And so I think thinking about how can we make sure that it's a policy imperative, that it's a policy priority, that girls are going to school is going to be a real challenge, but also opportunity in the next decade or so. Finally, I want to end by talking about the role public speaking has played in my own life. I'm an avid public speaker. I love talking. This is, one of the reasons why I'm so excited to be here with you all today. And I think, public speaking and storytelling is such a powerful tool for creating change. So I really encourage you all to get out of your comfort zone. Public speaking can be scary. It is scary sometimes. But, just take the plunge. And I think you'll find that there's so much to discover in terms of, making the world a better place through using your voice and through speaking up for the issues you care about in the communities that mean the most to you. So with that, I want to say thank you so much for listening to me here. If you have any questions or want to follow along with my journey, my handle is Jana Amin, JanaAmin03 on Instagram. You can find me on LinkedIn as well. And I'd be so happy to connect with you all and maybe hear about your own projects, right? What are you doing to change the world, and how can I be a resource to help you do so? Thank you. Masalama. Bye.